never considered a career in research, and I was, again, just extraordinarily fortunate to be blessed with someone who was a mentor when I didn't even understand what a mentor was. And this was a very junior faculty member who took me under his wing during my psychiatry residency. I was interested in mental disorders, and I saw myself as having a career treating them. He opened the door to me to realize the excitement of discovery. And he was so passionate about it, it infected me, and I became very interested with it. And that was really the gateway then to my career at NIH and subsequently to my career as a research dean. I mean, I could have easily been, and would like to believe that I would have been, a very capable practitioner out on the front lines. But these other opportunities came along. In part because his interest in the broad range of neuropsychiatry, his interest was on schizophrenia, and some of the early research work I did involved those patients. It gave me, I believe, a particular perspective on research. There's enormous value, and there's real joy in bench laboratory discovery. But when you think about the spectrum of human illness, schizophrenia is arguably one of potentially the most devastating diseases. You know, typically striking an individual, many individuals who've been very high functioning, striking them in late adolescence, robbing them of their ability in some cases to think clearly, in some cases to know what's real and what isn't real, in some cases to trust their very senses. Is that a real voice talking to me, or is that an hallucination? Not only can it be devastating in terms of the symptoms, but it can last for decades. You know, in the thankfully increasingly small number of patients with schizophrenia who are treatment resistant, this can become a lifelong task for them and for the people who love them and care for them. And when you see an illness that creates such a burden for the individual and such a burden for their family and their friends, it adds a whole new dimension to research. It makes you feel, in some cases, almost desperate to gain ground in understanding and treating their illness. But another element of it that I think we appreciate more and more every day in the research community is it makes them very vulnerable. And it gives us an even higher ethical obligation to protect them in the course of our studies from their vulnerabilities. I saw this play out in so many ways early on. There is value in being able to conduct some studies or laboratory tests on a patient with schizophrenia when you don't have the interference of their medication. On the other hand, there's a real risk to a patient asking them to come off their medication. I would argue that my happening to pursue schizophrenia research actually gave me a window on what are some of the greatest dilemmas of our time around integrity and ethics in research. And so it was that early experience that not only shaped me, but I think helped me understand in every area of research that balance between the quest for discovery, the joy of discovery, and our obligation, above all, to do no harm. We want, ultimately, through research, to do good, but we have to be realistic that every research project entails potentially some element of harm that we need to scrupulously avoid.